Today I want to talk to you about the hike from Estella to Los Arcos. It's 21 kilometers and it took us 28,500 steps. Let me tell you, this is the most beautiful day we have had so far. Now I know Rob says I say that every day, and I have said it every day so far, but this time it's true. It is absolutely stunning, probably the most beautiful walk you are going to take in the beginning part of the Camino. There are some cool things along the way too. First, as soon as you hit the town of Irache, just before you get there, you're going to come up across the famous wine fountain. And this is a lot of fun. I think it opens at 8 o'clock. So if you leave early, you're not even going to see it at all. When we got there, unfortunately, they had not filled the fountain yet with wine. So we only got a few drops. We still drank those drops, so we could say we drank from the famous wine fountain. It is a very popular stop along the first part of the Camino. Now, after you leave there, as you keep walking, you're going to see these cliffs off to your right. They are gorgeous. They are off in the distance, but they just make the whole horizon just stunning. Don't miss those. This is an easy hike, by the way, compared to everything else we've had. The hills are gentle and the views are so stunning, you're not even thinking about walking, truly. So eventually, about halfway through the hike, you're going to get to Villa Mayor de Monjardin. And this little town is cute, and there are, of course, you can stop for a sandwich or a coffee. But for me, my favorite part is just behind it, there's a little mountain, and on top of that mountain is a castle, and it is just beautiful, very picturesque. Oh, at about 6 kilometers to the end, you'll come across a food truck. We stopped there and we had a couple of beers, and it was a lovely way to take a break just before the end of that hike. That night when we got to Los Arcos, we stayed at La Fuente Casa de Estella. And it was a cute little place. It was a albergue. We met a lot of nice people there. We had some fantastic conversations with people. I would definitely recommend it. We had a dorm with 10 beds and we paid $12 each for those beds. The place is equipped with a kitchen and a place to do laundry. Perfectly wonderful, and it's one of the first places you come to as you enter town, so it's easy to find. For food, groceries again, you're gonna get sick and tired of us saying that, but we're really finding it an easy way to find food and an easy way to save money, because we're not always saving money on our accommodations, so we're trying to save money where we can, and food is one of those places we can save money. The town of Los Arcos feels pretty empty. There wasn't a lot to do there, but it's a pleasant town anyways. Today I want to give a shout out to Jennifer from Germany. We met her coming along the way. She's only doing a short section of the Camino, about a week, but we hope she's doing well. We didn't see her at the end, and it was great to meet you, Jennifer.
Welcome back to another fun day on the Camino. Today I want to talk about a question that came up for us quite a bit while we were planning our Camino, and it's how far do you need to plan ahead for your accommodation? Do you need to book it all ahead all the way through? Or can you be flexible and just show up in a place and still be able to find a bed to stay? So whether you realize this or not, David has been keeping up in real time with his section of the videos before we forget what we did, so he can talk about it. I've been kind of waiting till the end where I'm doing a lot more because I wanted, tripping and walking uphill at the same time. So keep your fingers crossed for me. But I've waited until the last half of the Camino to film a lot of these parts of our experience because I wanted to be able to have the experience so I could kind of tell you what's going on. So we booked ahead our first 5 nights outside of St. John Pied de Port because we had just heard, that it's busy in the summertime. It's the busiest time of year and it's going to be hard to find places to stay, and we didn't want to stress about it at all. So we just booked ahead our first 5 nights. It was very easy. And what we realized when we got here is that none of the places we were booked in were ever full. even Roncesvalles, which is a very big place, the albergue there, but it's the only gig in town, so it's the only one there. And so online, there's a lot of people like, oh, you don't want to, end up sleeping on the floor. They'll find a place for you, but you might have to sleep on the floor. We met people who were hiking that day, did not have a reservation, and they got a bed, no problem. So what that kind of taught us, at least for people, we started hiking on June 5th, no, June 6th. And so at least at this time of year, it doesn't really seem to be full anywhere that we've been. Now we have heard, this is the rumors, that where it used to be the summertime was the busiest. I mean, definitely in Europe, anywhere else, that's when people have their summer vacation and they go to Europe and everything gets really crowded. But on the Camino, it seems like people have kind of shifted, and now everyone, not everyone, but many people are trying, oh, I've got mud, are trying to walk the Camino. Sorry, I've got mud in April and May, and in September and October, kind of those shoulder seasons, for two reasons. One, because, kind of the idea is that it's going to be less crowded, but also to beat the weather, right? It can be hot in the summertime, depending on your definition of hot. Oh, I just got in some mud. And so people who are looking for those cooler weather will come in those shoulder months. And now what we're hearing is that those shoulder months have become the busiest time on the Camino. So we started a couple weeks later than we intended, in June, thinking it was going to be busier. And actually we're finding the opposite is true, that it's actually a little less busy than we anticipated. So since we haven't had any trouble, after Puente Lorena, we didn't have anything booked, and we started just playing with it. And we just go into a town and see what we could find. And nowhere did we ever get turned away. And that really made us feel a lot better that we, had options. And, within the towns, there's multiple albergues or hotels or whatever. So, there's multiple places to try, but we never went to more than one place because the first place we went would have a bed. We just stayed there. I guess the other thing you really need to think about when you're asking, how far do I need to book ahead, is what kind of place do you want to stay? So if the albergues is your goal, if you're on a budget and you want to stay in those albergues, which are going to be the cheapest rooms, they're running anywhere from, 10, 12, 15 euros a night. We talked to some people the other day, they stayed in Astorga. They found, I think the municipal was 7 euros a night. Then you're probably going to want to do that and be in those dorm rooms. We are not really dorm room people. We did that. I did that a lot, staying in hostels in Asia when I was younger. At this point, I'm a little older. I like having a private room. I like the privacy of it, the comfort. They usually are nicer. Sometimes they'll come with a private bathroom, which is nice. And then also because we're working and we're trying to, work on the channel, it's just easier to do that in a private space than trying to do that from a bunk bed. Usually the private rooms, they'll have a chair, sometimes a desk. It's just way more comfortable for us. I would imagine that if you are following this channel, you're probably in a somewhat similar age bracket to us, maybe retired or semi-retired. And so like us, you might want to have some private rooms along the way. Now, we have been lucky. Some of the places we just walked into had a private room. I think there are so many people who really are looking for that communal experience and want to stay in the albergues, in the dorm rooms, that sometimes the private rooms in the albergues are still open. And so we have had a couple places we were able to just walk in and get a private room, which is really terrific. But that doesn't happen everywhere. And so, if you've been watching the channel to this point, we stayed in a number of albergues in the dorm rooms, and they've been perfect. They've been fine. It's a fun experience. We wanted to have that experience, but it's not our preference. And so generally what we find we have started doing is that like the morning of, we'll start walking. We know where we're going to go. Some people want to be very flexible and they'll just walk until they get tired and then stop there. And that's great. If that's you, you can do that. We kind of have an idea of how far we're going to walk. We generally like that 20, 22 kilometers a day. Today we're walking 25. 30. We've done it, but that starts to get a little long. So, but we kind of know where we're going. And so I'll just get on booking.com in the morning. I'll look at the town we're going to go and I find a room and I book it. That has been super easy to do. And then we know we have a place that night. I know where it is. When we get into town, we don't have to think about it. It's generally already paid for. We just have to show up and get in the room. We talk to other people. They don't want to book ahead. They want to walk in. Totally fine. I think that will work for you, at least at this time of year. And so really, you just have to decide, do you want to have that albergue experience? Do you want to have private rooms? There are Airbnbs and stuff along the way. We have seen some of that even on booking.com, where it'll be an apartment for rent, and usually they're very affordable. For me though, I just don't like the idea of having to navigate that meeting up with a host where that's their apartment they're renting out, and I need to coordinate what time I'm going to get there. I like going to an established place that has a reception desk and I can just show up whenever and check in. So we haven't done any Airbnbs or apartments. It's all been either usually like pensions, small hotels, or the albergues that have private rooms. That book ahead, because a lot of the albergues you can't book ahead anyway, even the private rooms. So there's lots of options. You're going to be able to find what you want, but knowing what you want ahead of time is going to make all the difference for you. Now, I will acknowledge that a lot of people talk about how busy it gets after Saria. Saria is the #1 starting place for any of the Caminos, and we anticipate it's going to be very busy from that point forward. And so we decided to book it ahead of time. We're, I think, a week away from Saria when I'm filming this. And we just booked it all out 3 or 4 days ago. We had no problem finding private rooms even this close. And I think the thing is that even though it's really crowded, because it's really crowded, the infrastructure has grown to accommodate it. I'll know better once we get there. And if I need to do an addendum, I will. But just know at this point, like, my guess is you could find rooms there, especially, again, if you're looking for albergues. I don't know how hard that's going to be. But for private rooms, booking those last, I think it was 5 nights, we didn't have any issues finding stuff. I am kind of happy that it's booked because I don't have to worry about it. Now, if you've been watching these, you know I've been dealing with blisters and getting sick and all that. Something like that happens, and we've booked 5 nights of non-refundable accommodation, then that might be an issue and we'll have to deal with that. But kind of taking away that mental, where am I going to stay tonight? It's just already decided. I always like deciding things ahead of time. And so for us, that's worked really well. So I hope that helps you kind of decide. Just know what kind of room you want and know what kind of person you are. If you prefer having things settled so you don't have to worry about it, or if you want to maintain that flexibility to kind of do what you want, or maybe you meet some people along the way. Actually, we just stopped and ran into some friends that we haven't seen in a couple of days, and they told us where we were staying, and I hadn't booked the place yet, so I got on and I booked a place at the same place. We're both in private rooms, and that's nice, you know, that we had the flexibility to do that. I am really huffing and puffing walking up this hill today. We've been flat for so long. We're making a video about walking the Camino every day from town to town. So I'll put a link to our Camino playlist right here if you want to check the rest of them out. Whoa, I almost just died.